So I don't know if this will ever actually make it to a podcast. I don't even know who will actually listen to this, but I've been thinking about this topic in my head. And in my mind, it could be a little bit more of a controversial topic, but I think I would love to open a dialogue about this. I have expressed many times how I've noticed my kids have struggled quite a bit this year with friendships and with making connections. And there's been some situations that have happened the last little bit. And we had a long conversation with one of my kids last night. And the same old adage kept coming up of wanting somebody that they could be themselves with without having to worry about how it might come back to bite them later on. And I've heard this same sentiment with all of my kids. Same type of thing, that I just want a deep friendship. I want somebody that I can share my heart with, that I can whatever, and just know it's a safe place. And my husband and I, like, after we finished the conversation, we went and sat down for a little bit. We were just kind of going back and forth. I'm like, why do you think that is? Like, so over the year, we've had many conversations with our kids, and that's been the kind of the same idea that every one of them have shared, is that they're lacking this one deep friendship that they think they need, for one, and they just can't seem to find it. And I was reflecting back on my years as a teen, and my husband was as well, of, we just had friends. I don't think I ever sat there and was like, oh, I need somebody that I can have a deep conversation with and be able to share everything. And I didn't have that, because I think back then, and this is where I'm curious for other people's ideas and having a conversation around this, but the connection was so different. We didn't have, this constant connection through Instagram or social media or whatever the avenues are that our kids connect through. We didn't have that. So we were more in person. And so we didn't lack what our kids are lacking today. And our kids are so connected. They're so connected. I mean, even as adults, I hear this all the time too, the same sentiment of just how, because I've said the same thing of how lonely it can feel, even though we're all so connected, right? And I think there is something to this, that because everybody is so connected, we are missing the authentic connection. And because we're so connected, we almost feel like we have to guard ourselves as to sharing anything real, because we don't know what 6 months from now is going to be taken out of context or screenshotted or shared with anybody. And so our kids are kind of taught to put on a facade for everybody and hold it all in. And then we wonder why we have so much anxiety. We have so much anger. We have so much meanness that is coming out in this world. One of my kids have been struggling massively with anger. And we've struggled with this in years gone by, but we really thought things were kind of getting a little bit better with things, being able to maintain, manage. But over the last probably month, we noticed this anger that was just boiling over. And you really didn't know what you were going to get. When we would see them, it was like, okay, which version are we going to get? What are you going to say that's just going to be the tipping point? So it's been this walking on eggshells effect. And we finally sat down with them last night. I was just having a conversation, because we are about to go on some trips, me and my husband, for our 20th anniversary, which is just crazy. But we're about to go celebrate 20 years together, and we're leaving behind some kids that we've, and there's some worries there, as any parent would. And one of those being of just this anger that we see with one of our kids. And so we sat down and we had a conversation with them. We're just like, what is going on? And not that we can always pinpoint and say, oh, this is the reason why, but as the conversation continued, there, for one, it was this true, genuine lack of connection, lack of not having someone that they can be their real selves to. And as her mom, I was just like, hey, well, you got me. You totally got me. I'm here, whatever. But, as a kid, you're like, that's just not good enough. But I see this. I think I understand it on some levels too, of just these kids are told over and over again that they matter, that, they are seen, but then they are shown and they are judged and they are, if they have any kind of differing opinion, if they don't agree with someone else's perspective, they are literally torn down. And so they are taught to put on, like I said, a facade of who they are. And then we wonder again, like I said, why they're so angry all of the time. This particular child has been having a situation with somebody else in the school where, and we've talked so much about, like, we don't gossip about other people, we don't talk about them, it doesn't help, it doesn't look good on you, and it doesn't help the situation, it just doesn't. And I said, but if you need to talk it through, because I think this is what's more missing, if you need to talk it through and have a safe place to land, I'm here, I'm totally here for you, we can do it at any point. But I think it's sad because I when I was growing up, I had other people that I could share and be my real messy self with without the fear of how that was going to come back to bite me later on. And these kids don't have that. And some of them don't even have the parents to be able to do that for them. And so here is my child going through something in school. And there's other things that are going on too, but this one particular thing is really struggling for her because she's like, people are saying things about me that are not true. And I'm trying to confront this person. I'm trying to understand what's going on. And everybody's just wants to say, well, this other person is just struggling, so you just have to deal with it. And she says, it's so frustrating that I can't express my frustration because this other person is going through something. And I sat back and I thought about that. I was like, oh, that is so true. Like, why I understand we don't want to judge other people. We don't want to compare or tear down. I understand that. But you know what? We are also all human. And so when something happens to us or with us or whatever you want to say, it is natural for us to be frustrated. So why has that become such a bad thing for us to express it? Why is it if you express it to somebody, all of a sudden you're this evil person? Why do we have to be perfect? Why do we have to be loving and accepting to everybody all of the time? Because, I mean, again, that is real. But what is also real is the other side that is, this is hard. This is frustrating. Why are we expecting our kids to only show up and be positive and accepting and then wonder why they're struggling with disconnection, struggling with anger, struggling with anxiety? Because that is not real. It is not real. I have my frustrations. I am an adult, thankfully, and I know how I can work through them, but there's still those times where I'm like, thankfully, I have an amazing husband who's willing to sit there and listen to me and not even fix anything. I think that's the thing. Like, these kids need a place for them to let loose and not have like parents or a friend fix it. They just need a place to outsource this, to let it out without it being this awful, evil, horrible thing for them to say or think a certain way. They're human just like us. And so I've really been sitting back and I'm like, I don't even know where to go with this, but I feel like there's something here that these kids are struggling for connection. They are struggling to be heard and to be seen just as they are. This one child of mine is one of the most amazing connected, not even connected, but just she gives people chances and chances and chances and chances and chances. Like, she loves people unconditionally. But because she feels like I have to stuff down this other side and, oh, I have to be, not frustrated, not upset, it's totally fine for you to slander my name, like, it's coming at a cost to her. It really is. And it's coming at a cost to everybody else because she can't let it out to her friends, because she can't let it out in the world. The byproduct of this is that she's letting it out in our home. And it's creating this anger and this tension in our home. And we're going to work on that. I'm going to take responsibility for this, but I can see this sentiment across the board with so many kids. Your kid will be deemed as a negative, awful, horrible, toxic person if they express any frustration about somebody else. How dare you compare yourself? How dare you? I'm like, but that's a human thing to do. They're just willing to say what's in their brain. And if they aren't, then they are like not being real and authentic. They are being a version of themselves. And I feel like that's what my daughter has been doing, is being a version of herself because she is desperate for connection from somebody else. And it's also now her dumbing herself down is making herself even more disconnected. And so when she gets one friend that she feels like, oh, this could be my person, it's like this codependency that just naturally comes out because she is so empty from that connection. And even then, when we were talking to her about this, it's like, okay, we got to be careful with this because we don't need a friend to be, you know, all or nothing with this. We don't need to put so much pressure on this other friend to fill your cup. There's just no way she can. So it's learning that balance, but we've got to do something different here. We've got to do something different. We got to stop shaming these kids for having emotions. And I've seen the swing back and forth, like this one is very emotional child and she wears her heart on her sleeve and she hears over and over again, like if she starts to cry or she starts whatever, then there's people that judge her for it and say like, you shouldn't be crying, you shouldn't be whatever. And it just like, I'm like, it totally makes sense. Again, I'm not condoning, I'm not saying it's totally fine, but there's a gap here that I think we as a society can address. We need to let people be humans, not react. That's not what I'm saying. But can we let people be safe to share what's on their heart and not judge them for anything that comes out of their brain? Because the truth is we also think and feel that way at times. I'm not saying all of the time, but at times we do. We need to be better at accepting people, all parts of them, not just the positive or condoning people for their bad behaviors because they're going through a rough time. It's, can we look at people and say like, I get it. I totally get it. And I'm frustrated. I'm totally frustrated. I'm angry with how this is going down. And this will pass. This too will pass. I don't know. It is baffling to me to kind of see this over and over again, this disconnection, this lack of friendships, this anger and I wouldn't even say panic, but this anger that is just on the edge all of the time in our society. You really do. You have to like watch what you say and how you say it because you're afraid that somebody's going to unleash on you or you're going to be cut off because you are a horrible person. It just, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I see a gap and I feel for my kids and I feel for all of our kids because I know it's not just mine. I know it's not just mine that are going through this situation. It's something that I want to ponder on a little bit more. It's something that I want to help my kids address a little bit better. One of the things I will definitely be putting more into practice is helping my kids be a safe place for themselves to be able to be themselves, and not necessarily need everybody. Of course, we want other friends, but helping them to learn how to do a vent session with themselves or with a journaling page, how to process that anger instead of it being reactive. I mean, that's definitely some stuff that I want to take responsibility for and help my kids with, but still that root cause is just, it's interesting. It's interesting to ponder. This is just me sharing my thoughts today. And I would love to hear if anybody else agrees, disagrees, sees it a different way. Because I know this is just my perspective. I totally know that. I know there's other people that probably would totally disagree with me. But I think something has to change. I don't know what that is, but I would love to have a conversation around it.